Please like, subscribe and share the video. Thank you. There are moments in political life when silence is more damning than any spoken word. When Jess Phillips was abruptly cut off mid-response during a parliamentary session, it wasn't just procedural interference, it was a symptom of a deeper institutional rot. A government can tolerate scrutiny when it has confidence in its own integrity. But when silence becomes the refuge of ministers, and vague promises are offered in place of timelines, we are not witnessing governance. We are witnessing evasion. This country has endured inquiry after inquiry, thick with findings, heavy with recommendations, only to watch them gather dust in departmental in trays. The independent inquiry into child sexual abuse, IICSA, produced harrowing truths. And yet, when asked about its implementation, years later, we are still told that departments are reviewing obligations or waiting on spending reviews. Excuses layered on bureaucracy. It's not just inefficient, it is unconscionable. When children's safety is on the line, indecision is not neutral. It is negligent. Listen carefully to the responses being given. Timelines. Unclear. Meetings. Ongoing. Progress. Expected in the coming months. These are the words of a government that has mastered the art of linguistic limbo, just enough to appear engaged, but never enough to be held accountable. The minister may insist that only 4 of the 20 recommendations fall under the Home Office. Fine. But when over a dozen recommendations hang unresolved, the question is no longer who's responsible. The question is, why isn't anyone being held to account for the lack of progress at all? Consider the public awareness campaign meant to educate the public on grooming gangs and abuse. Still no plan. No budget. No clarity. Inaction here is not passive, it is enabling. The longer the delay, the more space it gives for continued abuse, more children left unprotected, and more perpetrators to operate unchecked. And then we have the court's power to intervene in parental responsibility cases. Again, no movement. These are not minor oversights. These are life-altering failures, and they're happening on this government's watch. Even more galling is the minister's refusal to commit to pressure points in places like Bradford, despite repeated concerns raised. Yes, inquiries are independent. But independence does not preclude advocacy. A minister serious about child protection would demand accountability wherever it's needed. Instead, we get cautious distancing, a polished rhetoric that dances around responsibility while the clock ticks on real, urgent needs. Let's not be naive. Political leadership isn't about having the right talking points. It's about having the courage to confront institutional failures head-on. It's about using the full weight of office not to deflect, but to drive change, relentlessly, even when uncomfortable. What we saw in this session was not courage. It was political hedging. The kind that puts departmental diplomacy over children's lives. And yet, the public continues to be treated like spectators, invited to watch these sessions with no real transparency, no meaningful follow-up, and certainly no consequences for those who fail to deliver. Are we meant to be satisfied with vague promises and recycled talking points? Are we really to believe that cross-government boards and bilateral meetings, cited like bureaucratic trophies, equate to action? Enough. This isn't about partisanship. This is about moral leadership. Any minister, any government, that cannot clearly articulate when and how it will act on recommendations stemming from child sexual abuse inquiries has forfeited the moral ground to govern. Period. They should not be allowed to hide behind departmental structures or administrative delay. We are constantly told that politics must be patient, that reform takes time. But that patience has become a weapon against public accountability. The British public is tired of polished deflections. We are tired of empathy that doesn't translate into action. It is time we demand deadlines, not discussions. Commitments, not consultations. We don't need more statements made in Parliament, we need change made on the ground. And to those who still believe that a few firm words from a minister suffice, look again. Look at the scandal, the forced removals from hearings, the public unease. These aren't random flare-ups. They are the natural outcome of a political culture that has grown comfortable with delaying justice, comfortable with the theatre of concern, and deeply uncomfortable with real accountability. This moment was never supposed to go viral. It was supposed to be a routine update, a box checked. That it exploded into controversy says less about Jess Phillips and more about the pent-up frustration of a nation that has watched time and time again as our institutions fail to protect the most vulnerable. If the government cannot deliver on the most basic function of safeguarding its children, what moral claim does it have to govern anything else? This is not a rhetorical question, it is a call to action. Either ministers move swiftly and transparently, or they should step aside and make room for those who will. Because what we are facing is not just a political failure, it is a national disgrace.